The betrayal I never saw coming. The evening felt perfect. The warm golden light of the setting sun streamed through the windows, casting long shadows on the floor of our living room. Thomas Ward, me, was sprawled on the couch, feeling that rare sense of contentment after a long week. My wife, Karen, was in the kitchen, humming the familiar tune of her favorite song. The aroma of her cooking drifted through the air, filling the space with a sense of home. We had been married for 8 years. 8 wonderful years, or so I thought. We had a beautiful life together, good careers, a home we loved, and an easygoing routine that made us both feel safe. Evenings like this were the ones I cherished, when everything felt right in the world. I should have known something was off when I grabbed my phone off the coffee table. It wasn't an urge I typically felt. I wasn't one to constantly check messages or scroll through social media. But that night, I felt a strange pull. An instinctive nudge that something was about to change. With my thumb, I unlocked the screen and casually scrolled through the apps, glancing at texts and notifications. That's when I saw it. A notification from a dating app. My brow furrowed in confusion. Why would Karen be on a dating app? We had a happy marriage, at least, I thought we did. I clicked on the message, and the name that appeared on the screen made my stomach drop. Marcus. Marcus Blackwell. A name from my past. I hadn't seen or heard from him in years, and yet here he was, connected to my wife in a way I never could have imagined. The message previewed a friendly conversation between the two of them, but as I scrolled further, my heart began to race. The casual words quickly turned into something more, something intimate. They had been talking for months. The messages were flirtatious, filled with private jokes and hidden meanings. The kind of conversation I thought only belonged to us. My hand trembled as I read through more of their exchanges. The messages between them weren't just random banter, they were planning things together. Plans for the future. Meetings, dates, even weekends away. I couldn't believe my eyes. I felt like the world had gone silent. The room around me disappeared, leaving only the screen in my hand. This couldn't be real. My wife, Karen, the woman I had married, the woman I had trusted, had been hiding something for months. And it wasn't just any affair, it was with someone I knew. Someone I had once called a friend. The truth was unbearable. I couldn't move. I just stared at the phone, trying to process what I was seeing, but no matter how many times I read the messages, the reality of it didn't change. My chest tightened, and I felt the ground beneath me become unsteady. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but I couldn't. I heard the soft sound of footsteps behind me, and I quickly locked my phone, shoving it into my pocket. Karen appeared in the doorway of the living room, a bright smile on her face, holding a tray with dinner. She didn't notice the look in my eyes, the shift in the air. Her presence, once comforting, now felt distant, as though a wall had risen between us. "Dinner's ready," she said, setting the tray down in front of me. I forced a smile, trying to keep the facade of normalcy. But inside, I was dying. I didn't know what to say, what to ask, or if I was even ready to confront her. So I said nothing. But the questions kept swirling in my mind. How long had this been going on? What was Karen hiding? And what did Marcus have to do with all of it? The night continued, but everything felt different now. The calm, peaceful evening I had once cherished now felt like a ticking time bomb, waiting to explode. I knew I couldn't stay silent for long. I needed answers. But for now, all I could do was watch Karen, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. The morning after my discovery, the silence between Karen and me was unbearable. She had no idea that I knew what had happened, and part of me wished I could pretend I didn't know. But the truth was like a weight pressing down on my chest, suffocating me with every breath. Karen was sitting at the breakfast table, pouring coffee, her eyes bright and cheerful as she hummed a tune under her breath. She was completely unaware that her secret was no longer a secret. I wanted to say something, to confront her, but my mind was a whirlwind of confusion and anger. How could she do this to me? How could she betray me like this with someone I once called a friend? But no, I couldn't just throw it all at her yet. I had to be strategic. I had to be calm. "Karen," I began, keeping my voice steady, we need to talk about something. She looked up, slightly startled, but smiled reassuringly. Of course, what's on your mind? I wanted to scream, to demand she explain herself, but I couldn't let the fury take over. I had to play this carefully. Last night, I saw something on my phone. Something that doesn't make sense. Her hand froze mid-air as she was about to take a sip of coffee. What do you mean? She asked, her voice betraying a slight tension. I found messages between you and Marcus, I said quietly, watching her face closely for any sign of recognition. You've been talking to him for months. Her face went pale. She set the cup down slowly, her eyes widening. For a brief moment, I thought she might deny it, lie her way out. But she didn't. Oh, she whispered, her voice breaking. I never meant for you to find out like this, Thomas. I didn't know how to tell you. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. How long, Karen? I asked, my voice trembling now. How long have you been hiding this from me? She sighed, her shoulders slumping as she sat down across from me. It started out so innocently. Just a conversation here and there. I didn't think it would go this far. But then we started talking more. About everything. About things I didn't know how to talk to you about. I was stunned. What things? Karen, you've been planning something with him. Why him? Why Marcus? Her eyes filled with tears, and she wiped them away quickly. I didn't want to hurt you. I never meant to. I needed someone to talk to. And I found that in Marcus. Things happened, and it got out of control. I'm so sorry, Thomas. I never wanted this. I didn't know how to respond. Her apology felt real, but the damage had already been done. The betrayal was there, hanging heavy in the air between us. How could I move past this? How could I trust her again? Do you love him? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She hesitated, the answer clear in her eyes before she spoke. No. I love you, Thomas. But I've been lost. I didn't know how to find my way back to you. I stood up, walking away from the table. The pain was too much to bear. I don't know what to say. I don't know if I can forgive you for this. Karen's voice cracked. Please, don't give up on us. But I wasn't sure if I could believe her anymore. I needed time to think. Time to process the betrayal, and the questions that I couldn't yet answer. Would our marriage survive this? And what was the next step? The confrontation with Karen had left me in a daze. I felt as if my world had crumbled into pieces, and I had no idea how to pick them up again. I couldn't shake the images of their secret messages from my mind. The thought of Marcus and my old friend being the one she turned to, the one she confided in, tore at me like nothing else. But I needed closure. I needed to look Marcus in the eyes and hear him explain what had happened. I called him. Marcus, I said when he picked up, my voice tight with emotion, we need to talk. Meet me at the cafe in an hour. I hung up before he could respond. I didn't want to hear any excuses, any explanations that might make this easier. I needed to hear the truth from him, straight, no filter. When I saw him sitting at the corner booth, I could hardly recognize the man I once knew. His face was older, sure, but there was something else, something harder in his eyes. He looked up as I approached, and for a moment, neither of us said anything. The tension between us was thick, suffocating. I don't know what you were thinking, Marcus, I started, my voice steady but filled with anger. But you've crossed a line that can't be undone. He looked down, guilt written all over his face. I know, he muttered. I never meant for it to happen like this, Thomas. It just happened. I didn't plan any of this. I didn't plan to hurt you. I leaned in, fury bubbling up inside me. You don't get to apologize, Marcus. You don't get to just walk away from this. He swallowed hard, his eyes downcast. You're right. I messed up. I should have stopped this earlier, but I didn't. I got caught up in it. I'm sorry. His apology felt hollow. It wasn't enough. He was just as guilty as Karen. But something else began to sink in. This wasn't just Marcus's fault, it was hers too. She had made a choice. She had allowed this to go on. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now, I said, standing up. But I need answers. From both of you. And with that, I walked away. This wasn't over. Not yet. But I knew I had to make a choice. And it wouldn't be an easy one. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything had been turned upside down. After meeting with Marcus, I realized that my confrontation with Karen was only the beginning. The answers I needed were still locked inside her, still waiting to be revealed. I decided to confront Karen again. But this time, I wouldn't be angry. I wouldn't lash out. Instead, I needed to listen. To truly understand her side. We sat down at the kitchen table, both of us silently staring at our hands for a long moment. I finally broke the silence. Karen, I said softly, I know you didn't mean for this to happen, but I need to know why it did. What was missing between us that made you turn to Marcus? Karen looked at me, tears welling up in her eyes again. I didn't feel heard, Thomas. I didn't feel seen. You were so busy with work, and I felt so alone. It wasn't just about Marcus. It was about me not knowing how to talk to you. How to ask for what I needed. I felt the weight of her words. Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you tell me you were struggling? I was scared, she whispered. I didn't want to seem weak. And by the time I realized how deep I had gone, I was too afraid to stop. Her words hit me harder than anything else. It wasn't just Marcus's fault. It was both of ours. We had neglected to communicate, to nurture the bond that had once been our foundation. It was a mistake I had made as well. I want to fix this, she said, reaching for my hand. I know it's not going to be easy. But I love you, Thomas. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I didn't know if I could forgive her yet. But I knew I had to try. For both of us. Step 5, Chapter 5, The Road to Healing, Resolution. In the days that followed, Karen and I made an effort to work through the mess we had created. We went to therapy together, seeking a professional's help to navigate the pain and betrayal. It wasn't easy. There were moments when the anger would rise again, when I'd question if this marriage was worth saving. But each time, Karen would hold my hand and remind me that we were in this together. We both learned that forgiveness wasn't instantaneous. It wasn't something you could just say and move on from. It took effort, understanding, and time. Through our sessions, we began to understand each other better. We learned to listen, truly listen, to each other's needs. We shared our vulnerabilities, something we hadn't done in years. And slowly, piece by piece, we started to rebuild the trust we had lost. But the road wasn't without its bumps. There were moments when the past would resurface, when I would doubt Karen's commitment. But the months that followed were filled with quiet moments of healing, and while our scars were still there, they became part of the story we were building together, a story of resilience, forgiveness, and growth. Karen and I worked hard to mend the cracks that had once threatened to break us apart. Every conversation, every shared experience became a stitch in the fabric of our new relationship. The truth was, rebuilding trust wasn't something that happened overnight. There were days when the past crept back into our conversations, when the memories of betrayal would haunt me. But each time, we faced it head-on. We didn't shy away from the uncomfortable truths. Instead, we embraced them, knowing that only by confronting them could we truly move forward. Our therapy sessions helped us learn how to communicate more effectively, how to understand each other's emotions without judgment. We started setting aside time for each other, just the two of us. No distractions, no work, just time to reconnect. It was these moments that allowed us to rediscover the love we had once shared, but now with a deeper understanding of each other's needs. There were, of course, difficult days. There were nights when we lay in bed, the silence heavy between us, as we both wrestled with the weight of what had happened. But we didn't let those moments define us. Instead, we took them as opportunities to remind each other of our commitment. We promised ourselves that we would never again let distance grow between us. That we would always communicate, always be open about our fears, desires, and struggles. One evening, as we sat on the porch, watching the sunset, I turned to Karen, my heart full. "I can't promise we won't face challenges again," I said softly, "but I can promise that I'll never give up on us." Karen's eyes met mine, and I saw a depth of emotion there, love, regret, but most of all, a sense of hope. "I don't want to go through life alone, Thomas. And I don't want to face another day without you by my side." In that moment, I knew we had made it through the worst of it. We had faced the darkest part of our marriage, and while it had been painful, it had also been transformative. We were no longer just surviving together, we were building something stronger, something that would carry us through whatever life threw our way. We had come a long way, and I was proud of the progress we had made. Karen had proven herself to me through her actions, her commitment to change, to working through the pain, to rebuilding the trust that had been shattered. It wasn't easy, and there were times I doubted whether we could ever get back to where we once were. But with patience, love, and effort, we had created a new foundation, one that was stronger than before. As I looked at her, I realized that love wasn't about perfection, it was about the willingness to keep going, even when things seemed impossible. It was about showing up for each other, even when the world felt like it was falling apart. And as the stars began to twinkle in the sky above us, I knew that we were ready to face the future together, whatever it held. As we sat there, quietly taking in the beauty of the night, I thought about the journey we had been on. Betrayal, pain, forgiveness, it had all been a part of our story. But it didn't define us. What defined us was our willingness to learn from our mistakes, to grow, and to keep choosing each other every single day. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories like this one. Thanks for watching.